Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Gensler, good morning. I worry that the term investment contract has become so infinitely malleable and manipulable that it means whatever you unilaterally thinks it ought to mean, right? I worry that when it comes to crypto, your interpretation of the term investment contract has no limiting principle and therefore could invite arbitrary and capricious enforcement action. So I want to take a few minutes to explore the concept of investment contract in greater depth. And I want to start with an obvious definitional question. We know that an investment contract requires an investment. Does an investment contract require a contract?
You know, something about this definition, I will quote Thurgood Marshall, Congress painted with a broad brush. And when Marshall said that, he was writing the law of the land. So we follow this Howey test and how not just Marshall, but other courts interpreted it. And it has a four components.
Again, I did not go to MIT, but in the Bronx, if I ask whether an investment contract includes a contract, the answer is typically yes or no. So,
actually, sir, under the Supreme Court law of the land, they do not write that in. They say it's an investment of money in a common enterprise, and you're anticipating profits based on the efforts of others. So I took an oath to follow the law of the land, and that's the Supreme Court law of the land.
So in Howey, the Supreme Court refers to an investment contract as a contract, scheme, or transaction. That was the terminology that I saw in the case. And as far as I can tell, there's nothing in the Supreme Court's jurisprudence that suggests that a scheme or transaction means the absence of a contract. And so by way of illustration, consider the landmark case of SEC versus Howey. In the Howey case, there was not a single contract, but there were two contracts. A land sales contract with the Howey Company and a service contract with Howey in the Hills. And the court found that the combination of those two contracts, the total scheme, the total transaction, the total economic reality, was constitutive of an investment contract. And so a scheme or a transaction does not mean the absence of any contract at all. It means, as it did in Howey, a multiplicity of contracts. In August, there were 6 law professors from law schools as preeminent as Yale who came to the following conclusion, quote, "No decision of the Supreme Court has ever found that a scheme that does not involve a contract could qualify as an investment contract." And so do you disagree with that statement? And if so, could you please cite a decision of the Supreme Court that has found an investment contract in the absence of an actual contract?
The SEC has been in front of multiple courts, and investment contract has been...
What's the name of the case, Mr. Gensler? The Supreme Court case that has found an investment contract in the absence of an actual contract. Do you have the name? Can you cite a case?
The SEC, over the decades, whether it's...
Can you cite a case?
Whether it's whiskey caskets, whether it's crypto, if the public is investing based upon the efforts of others...
I find it telling that you cannot cite a single case.
That's a security.
Not a single... How about a Second Circuit case? Can you cite a single Second Circuit case that found an investment contract in the absence of a contract?
I understand where you're trying to go, and I'm going to leave that to the very fine attorneys at the SEC in front of courts. But I'm saying the core principle
Mr. Gensler,
this is a field...
This is let me finish. This is a question to which you should know the answer, because the definition of an investment contract is the central issue. That's what determines the extent of your authority. That's what determines the applicability of federal securities law to crypto transactions. And your inability to answer that question is baffling to me.
I'm answering it consistent with what the Supreme Court has said, which is the law of the land is a 4-part test.
And yet you cannot cite a single case to support your argument.
It's called Howey, it's called Reeves, it's called many cases at the Supreme Court, sir. 8 or 9 times it's been affirmed by the Supreme Court.
Can I ask, suppose I were to purchase a Pokemon card. Would doing so constitute a security transaction?
You could purchase a Pokemon card. I don't know what the context is, but if you're just purchasing a Pokemon card...
If I purchase a Pokemon card, is that a security transaction?
Store, that's not a security.
Okay. If I were to purchase a tokenized Pokemon card on a digital exchange via a blockchain, is that a security transaction?
I'd have to know more.
Okay, so for you, the process of tokenization is what transforms a non-security transaction into a security transaction?
Look, If the investing
I thought you were
public-
technology neutral.
If the investing public is anticipating profits based upon the efforts of others and they're exchanging funds, that's the core.
I
of
see
that
my time has
test.
expired, so.